Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Forward Maryland. I'm Bill Woodcock,
And I'm Jason Booms.
and today is Saturday, April the 18th, 2020. Jason, we're getting better on our dates.
Well, the year hasn't changed yet, so we can still use a calendar, so that's good.
And we have no guests today, although we will have a guest on our next episode. We'll get to that during the course of this fine podcast production. It's just us, and we have decided today to talk all things COVID. Jason, how are you dealing right now on week number, I don't know, 704 of coronavirus?
Well, being cooped up in this little wonderful corner of Columbia, you miss the springtime activities. I mean, yes, you can see the trees and the cherry blossoms, but it seems like a very restricted life experience at the moment. And obviously, of course, there is the joy of working out work arrangements. When a couple people are in the house together, each trying to do different things, sometimes on the phone loudly. Uh, but yeah, I'm looking quite forward to the end of this. I'm
Yeah.
not saying I'm going around the bend, but I feel like I'm coming close.
Yeah, for those of you out there in listener land and viewerville, we're not exactly playing this totally for yucks today. I mean, there will be semi yucks, I believe, but this is a pretty wild time and a solemn time. It is truly a silent spring. Spring is my favorite time of year. I love watching the colors come out, the flowers come out, and I love being outdoors in that. I love, being able to go to parks and playing ball and seeing people playing and, seeing people being together, getting outside again from the winter. And we don't have any of that. And in a community such as ours, for those of you from outside our town watching this, Columbia's got a lot of open space and prides itself on giving people the opportunity to get out. This is crippling to the community psyche, and and I think that's starting to show. I will say that what I mean. I've been lucky. I mean, we are both employed. We both have things that we can do to stay inside and distance and all that. A lot of people don't have that chance. But I will say that for the first 4 weeks or so, when I've been going out to run errands, people are quite kind. They have been quite friendly, quite, respectful of each other, giving each other enough space and such. Last week, people were a little bit scared, and I kind of took that, because we got a lot of intel, a lot of people told us on the TV and the radio that people listen to radio, incidentally, that this was going to be a bad week. This week, I went out on a couple different days this week to run errands, and people are back to their old selves. And I mean that completely as badly as I meant to say it. They are back to, cutting each other off. They're back to ambling around, bumping into people. They're not keeping distancing. They're yelling at each other. People are letting their anger show, and I don't think that's healthy. I wish there was some way to give all of society, a great big exercise class, because I think we need something to take our minds off of, being cooped up, especially because we have another month of this, probably.
At least, yeah.
At least.
Yeah, and, to me, it's a bit reminiscent of the post 9/11 period where there was so much oddity and madness in the air. You didn't know what was going to happen next, and there was that. I mean, you remember it well. There was a whole sense of when will we laugh again, and then of course it took that Will Ferrell sketch to break the ice.
Was that
But
the cowbell?
say what?
Was it the cowbell sketch?
No, it's the one where he showed up to the meeting wearing that very special American flag outfit.
Oh yes, yes, yes. I remember that. Oh, I forgot that was then.
It's like, okay, so there were glimmers of the way life should be, I guess, from that episode, but it feels like that the period of time that immediately followed that event, in terms of just that, you know, how much longer, you
Right.
know. But yeah, yeah, I do agree that nerves seem to be fraying a little bit as we sort of figure out, okay, well, the novelty, if you will. I mean, not to belittle it by any chance, but like everyone's went along with, okay, this is the new normal. Got it. Okay, let's make the best of a bad situation. But yeah, that seems to be fading a little bit as people, their true emotions and nerves sort of, come into play.
Right, and also some of them. It's not to discount these emotions because they're very real. I mean,
Mhm.
over 20 million people nationwide out of work. I believe. I thought I saw stats that said I think it was about 900,000 Marylanders. I might be exaggerating that, but you know, their
That's terrific
unemployment
numbers.
is going to be at its highest in a very long time when those numbers come out the first couple weeks of May.
Mhm.
And so there's a lot of anxiety, and yes, I think our governments, at least locally and statewide, have done a good job of trying to parry that, as well as public health professionals on the federal side. But still, when you still have your own budget, to manage your house with, and money ain't coming in, but a lot of stuff's going out, it's got to be stressful.
Oh yeah, very very disconcerting. And what was it, over 20 million Americans filed for unemployment this month?
Yes.
I mean, that's just, I mean, these numbers are just shockingly terrifying.
Right.
But yeah.
However, affairs of state on all levels press forward. And so we shall give you, the listener slash viewer, a scope going from the local, maybe even the hyper local, to the global. Um, and it seems that the wheels of bureaucracy go round and round all through the town, Jason.
Mm.
So we had this week a very interesting decision made by some of our local school board members in Howard County to, on the surface, it seemed like a banal enough request to, open up a discussion about the school system's preparations for the 2021 season, or school year, or session, due to the pandemic. It kind of is a season.
Will Chris Davis fail again?
He was having a good
He
spring.
really was.
He
I feel
was.
for the guy. I mean, it was.
Incidentally, on a total aside,
Oh
I'm
God, yeah.
wearing my Federal League Baltimore Terrapins t-shirt from 1913, from
Classic.
before the Spanish flu. I'll have y'all know. Anyway, school board members have apparently decided in these preparations to talk about the redistricting.
Hmm.
And the mention of the R word certainly perked up the ears of redistricting opponents who felt like this was a move to overturn the redistricting decision that was made last fall, and redistricting supporters
Hmm.
who believe that mentioning the R word was a move with the intention of overturning the redistricting that was approved last fall.
Hmm.
Jason, what do you make of this unforced error?
Well, it did resemble strongly a lurch towards political expediency. And like, oh, I'm not ascribing necessarily the worst possible motives to the redistricting opponents, although to do so normally, right? But because we have a situation whereby um, people seem to want to use COVID-19 as a cover to undo what has already been done.
Right.
I think it's, in some ways, it's the politically easy thing to do, because it has the patina of caring attached to it. But simultaneously, it just seemed to be very opportunistic on their part to attach to this and hopefully lead to a reversal of the decision. It seems to me like bad governance. and merely a chance for a lot of folks to ask, the what about the children question, have they already not been traumatized enough, and trying to attach their own messaging to the situation. So it seems to be like just a further example of sort of the breakdown in Howard County's fabled civility. I don't know. What's your take on it?
Well, so I like you, I am going to ascribe no ill intent to the school board members who have, made this original motion. And in fact, we are going to learn much more about the intent on this effort because we're going to be having Kirsten Coons, a current school board member who is running for re-election in District 4. She's not the only current school board member running for re-election in District 4, as we know. But we will have her on the show on Monday night to talk more about this and much more. So hopefully we'll get some more clarity and better answers then. But of course, I foreshadowed when I said the words unforced error. When I saw the form of the motion that was put before the board, it seemed like the words redistricting were called out, specified. And when you do that, you shine a light on something. And that, is probably a light that needed not to be shown. The administrative efforts between everything, arranging transportation, planning summer school, graduations for this school year. There are so, possible calendar alternatives. There were so many things to talk about. I mean, you are talking about literally dozens and dozens of action items that need to be done. Why couldn't it have just said preparations for the coming school year? Why is there some emphasis that was placed on redistricting that didn't need to be? So that points me a little bit more towards your direction of, possible political expediency. But political expediency to what end? Because as everybody who has been in Howard County and many people who have been outside of Howard County who have observed this thing will attest, this has not been Howard County's finest hour. and to bring this back up it's not pouring salt in a wound. It is rubbing it with horse manure.
Vivid and apt metaphor, Bill.
I try. I've been told I'm over the hill. So shall we look forward and go to the county level?
Yeah, let's county level, and I guess it's still in some ways local, but talking about Board of Education, talking about yeah.
So we've got some interesting things going on in the county level. We had a very interesting tete-a-tete in my village, the village of Oakland Mills, between a candidate for the Columbia Council seat, Lena Kennedy, who's also a school activist in the county, Larry Pretlow, a current Oakland Mills Village Board member, who is also a candidate for District 2 in the Howard County for the Howard County Board of Education, and a already pre-announced candidate for Howard County Council in 2022. Lots of hats that Larry Pretlow wears. And on a more solemn note, we have had 500 cases of coronavirus, diagnosed in Howard County. And I believe, and there have been, of course, a number of deaths. And we are facing, a spring where, spring in Howard County generally means, Columbia elections. Those are going on 100% by mail. Howard County graduations are coming up soon, as well as the July 4th festival, the Howard County Fair. It's hard to see either of those things going on
Yeah.
So, as our friend and colleague in blogging, Bill Santos, would say, the summer of neighbors is at risk. So, where, as a greater community, and kind of apropos the point earlier about people being a little bit on edge and seeing these little flare ups, do you think that these things would be going on if we didn't have the virus, or is this just human interaction? Is it based on the individuals involved? I don't know. Your thoughts?
Well, I think it would be worse if COVID-19 weren't here, um,
Lord,
but
it is true. It is keeping people in, but
yeah,
it's putting them on social media, Jason.
which is true. But I would like to talk about some of the local matters you discussed previously, especially regarding Oakland Mills, because I think there's something larger there, and I would like to, with that in mind, prepare the screen grab that'd be most befitting for this particular moment. All right, so let's freeze that, and we can go back to that later. But the
I thought you had a slide. Like,
the presentation. I miss Prezi so much. Uh, um, all right. So I think one of the things that has really come to light, and hopefully for people in the past few weeks, and I had previously had sworn I would never punch down. I don't think this is punching down so much as performing a public service to those in Oakland Mills that might be viewing this. Um, I think that Larry Pretlow is a very interesting individual. I'm not sure if his supporters, or those who think they're his supporters, if they really, really know Mr. Pretlow that well. I think if they were to engage in a little bit of online research into his past, they might find some eye-opening articles being written about him. He's definitely evolved, if you will, on certain issues over time. He ran as a Ben Jealous supporting Democrat, at least according to the platform that he shared with me 2 years ago. Switched by the fall, he was actively supporting Republican candidates, at least one that I know of for county council.
As well as the county executive.
Yeah, county executive. He's declared, as you mentioned, his 2022 candidacy. He did that a while ago, actually, I thought.
Yep.
And there's a video that's circulating of a recent Oakland Mills Village Board meeting. They got very contentious, very heated, and yet he made it all about himself. I really don't think he may claim to attach himself to certain civic issues of importance in Howard County. But I mean, and I've been around this for a long time. He seems like any one of a number of candidates that's sort of all about them, all about what their political goals and ambitions are, not so much about actually helping actual people or improving the common good. That's my take on it. I mean, other folks may think differently, but I think it's troubling the fact that he sits on any board of that has a measure of responsibility, as he currently does to a degree with the Oakland Mills Village Board. Yeah, I think it would be bad for the electorate for his career to advance. So, but we'll see what happens. I mean, maybe he'll self-destruct. He seems to have those tendencies already, and he does some very very unusual things. I think there's a sense of grandiosity there. Not to belabor the point, but I do remember that he was appointing chairman of his state legislative campaign committee or something like that. Like, who gives a title of chairman for a state legislative race? And then you got all those T-shirts with his name in different colors, and you got those big 12-foot face posters that he brings out at these events. He's just an odd individual, and I can't honestly believe that he'd be good for Howard County Public Schools and the Board of Education.
Howard County and Maryland, and I'm sure in your political experience, has seen its measure of gadflies. And very rarely do you ever see a gadfly become an actual elected official.
And when it does happen, it usually becomes a cluster.
Correct.
Yeah.
And it's quite short-lived.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you could say the current occupant of the White House may fit that bill, but I would say no, there was much more strategy there. You would maybe say the Jesse Ventura term as governor of Minnesota was that, but no, Jesse was much more a pure outsider.
Yeah.
You know, had not been somebody who had been railing about Minnesota politics for 10 years and then decided, guess what, I'm going to run for governor.
Mhm. It's
Larry
kind of like,
Prepler.
you know, who reminds me of a little bit. This is a Michigan reference, but Kerry Bentivolio, who primaried Thad McCotter, if you remember Thaddeus McCotter.
I actually do remember this guy you're talking about.
Oh yeah, total just out there. Anyway, so so McCotter, of course, his campaign didn't properly file their petitions, and turns out they hadn't filed them properly for a couple of cycles, but they didn't catch it for a while. So he got bounced off the ballot, leaving this guy who likes to run like a Santa Claus reindeer farm as the sole Republican candidate, which ended up winning a Republican district, and he served for a
Yeah.
term. But yeah,
So if memory serves, and my analogy, and this is Woodcock is on the game today, boys and girls. If I remember correctly, the late 60s, early 70s California marijuana activist S.I. Hayakawa
oh my God.
was able to earn a single term in the U.S. Senate and was promptly voted out as soon and as quickly as he came in. But there were a unique set of historical circumstances that surrounded the election of S.I. Hayakawa to the U.S. Senate.
Mm-hmm.
These circumstances do not exist in Howard County in the year 2020, nor did they in 2018, nor will they in 2022. Simply put, I read about S.I. Hayakawa. S.I. Hayakawa was somebody who flipped the hell out of me. Larry Pretlow, you're no S.I. Hayakawa. Larry Pretlow is what is wrong with Howard County civic discourse. I second everything you say and echo that and augment that by saying, my man needs a job. And if somebody would just give him a better job than the one he has now, he can take it. You know, go be with your kids. I believe he has a partner of some sort, wife or girlfriend. Go do that and don't do this. You know, regardless of his temperament, civic life is not for him. Some people don't get that. Some people, Harry Dunbar, go into their 70s and they don't get that. Larry Pretlow is, I believe, about 30, maybe 35. I don't think he's 40. He's got a lot of years left to have a happy life where he can go contribute to his church, an organization of his choice, his kids' schools, etc. That's where he should be. Not running for office, not agitating, not being mean and vile.
That seems fair.
And that's about as nice as I can say.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's more that could be said, but
Definitely more than could be said. Both of us have of course ended up on the business end of Team Pretlow bile. Although the bile really wasn't that much bile. I mean, it was like, you know, the time when Ray Lewis was talking about his 5-year-old son coming up saying, "Daddy, I'm going to beat you up." You know,
okay.
you know, I mean, it was kind of like that. I mean, him coming at either of us is like, you know, a 6-month-old with a pea shooter. So I mean, you know, there's no threat there. So of course, yeah, I'm gonna be as, you know, I'm gonna be as nice to him as possible. But you know, he's a sheep, and he has no. I mean, if I want to be, you know, totally political about it, he's a sheep with no constituency, a bad attitude, has absolutely zero concept of how to run a political campaign, Howard County Republicans are happy to let him run around flapping his gums like an idiot because they're much bigger idiots and they don't care about their image anymore. Um, there's very little good that comes out of him. The stuff he has done and said about other people, even though I don't always agree with those people or even very often agree with those people, are reprehensible and wrong. And by the way, me saying that about those people are better than what those people would say and do say about me. So that's another thing, just as an aside. Bottom line is Larry Pretlow is a mean person. He's vicious. The best thing for him to do is just to turn around, rethink what he's doing, and walk away.
Mhm. I mean, there are some folks. I remember very early on in my political career, I was listening to my boss at the time, a Michigan-based pollster. He was giving campaign advice to someone in their 20s who wanted to run for Congress. And at the time, I was right around 20. So, and the advice I heard him give seemed to me a little bit insulting, but I nonetheless came to see the wisdom of it. He was basically telling the person, look, go get a job, go make a lot of money. In 20 years, if you're still interested in it, run for something. Buy yourself a congressional seat or a state legislative seat was essentially his advice. And I did take away some wisdom in that, insofar as, yeah, this person probably that he was talking to needed some life experiences, probably needed some reflection. And who knows, maybe after 20 years they decide, well, that was ridiculous, why would I ever have wanted to do that? My life was so much better not doing it. I want to say it'd be nice if Mr. Pretlow could sort of take that reflective route and just reevaluate his life options outside of the public eye.
Yeah, people, unfortunately, I mean, that is a great story. People, unfortunately, in my experience, have been they don't take that advice.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, my expectation of Larry is that, unfortunately, he is about 30 years younger, 20 years younger than me. So naturally, when I'm, tap on wood, 90 years old, he's still going to be 70. He's going to be running for county executive saying no development Pretlow. And unfortunately, I mean, for what it's worth, I mean, the guy I mentioned before, Harry Dunbar, seems to be a man of good cheer. I've had lots of good conversations with Harry, decent enough fellow. But there is this anger, true anger, not anger at being offended, not anger at being insulted, not self-defensive anger, as at least one of the hosts of this podcast can attest to having to dig into once or twice, maybe two of them. But 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 just just a vicious streak.
And for what? For what end? For what purpose?
Yes, I don't get it. I don't understand it. And so, haven't been around the moon, the sun, and around the moon, a couple dozen times more. My advice to Larry is go home, and go do something fun, and pick up this when you could be constructive. Because what would be the answer to the question, who have you helped? I mean, the thing from the Oakland Mills Village Board, who did that help? Who did that help feed in Oakland Mills? Who did that help get a job in Oakland Mills? What kid got educated in Oakland Mills because of his bullshit? No one. None. And not for nothing about his opponent, she did not deserve the attacks that he's laying on her. And he's a bigot. He is sexist. He's misogynist. There is very little good in the public face of this man, but yet he has the temerity to walk around and shake everybody else's hand like he's everyone's buddy. He would have no clue. He's not just the dog who doesn't know what he would do if he caught the truck. He would completely shit on the truck if he got elected. I mean, and what electorate would elect him? I mean, with the climactic scene in Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, who would elect this guy? I don't get it.
Well, hopefully we'll have a positive resolution to that question soon.
Yes. On the state level, Jason, we have many better things going. We have many better things brewing. And I guess maybe even state and national can bundle into one, because we do have these coalitions of states that are joining together to talk about reopening their economies. And even though Maryland has not formally announced a partnership with DC and Virginia, I mean, Larry Hogan has said many times that they are coordinating efforts and they are talking because as one national capital region. So again, there's that, and then there are the more formal alliances in the Northeast, the Midwest, and the West. And what make you of all of these roadmaps to recovery that are starting to fly about, these 4-phase plans, 3-phase plans, plans that so far not a single state could reopen today. I believe there was one state, I think Montana, was like 9 days away as of yesterday. So I guess today they would be 8 days away to even start to reopen. So what do you think of these plans writ large, maybe even writ small, and will you be so bold as to predict a date by which the state of Maryland starts down its path to reopening?
Great question. What's fascinating about this is that so much of it depends on the daily data we get back, and your belief in sound science as to what they're calling for, 2 weeks or 14 days consecutively of the numbers going down. It seems to me that it's not, and I know a lot of folks feel a certain way about this particular approach of, when you talk about opening things back up, they think, oh, it's a premature drive to to get everything operational again, and it's too soon to get people in the same environment. And I do agree from a public health perspective, we need to be very cautious about this. I'm fine with there being planning. I mean, I have no problems with planning for something we know that will be hopefully an eventuality, whether it's a month, 2, 3, 4 months down the road. That said, I mean, it does seem as though that the governors in the coalitions that are most active, I'm talking about the Northwest, Pacific Northwest, California, and plus the Mid-Atlantic essentially Mid-Atlantic states. They seem to be doing a good job of laying out frameworks for a return, with the proviso that we don't know as of yet what the precise timetable is going to be. And I think that's realistic. Seemingly, I think it's a responsible step forward. But as far as when we'll actually be able to implement this, God, I have no idea. I mean, mentally, I'm somewhere thinking June, although that could be woefully early. I don't know. Maybe being too optimistic about it. I don't know.
Yeah, of course, the only reason that the economy was shut down was because Fauci is great friends with Bill Gates. There is a picture of them walking together, and Bill Gates has gotten all sorts of awards and accolades from the Chinese Academy of Science, of which Bill Gates is the biggest donor. Or at least so said the Howard County Republican Party Facebook page a few days ago.
Oh, okay.
Treasure trove of accurate information.
I'll have to check it out.
I think they've taken it down, but there is I will tell you where you can find it.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to go with a May the 18th, starting of phase 1 for Maryland, which for most of us will not mean much difference. It will probably mean, in my case, like a partial return to work, because they are still encouraging lots and lots of teleworking, but we'll probably go into the office at least, a couple times a week. And then, phase 2, I'm going to say that's going to be around end of June. And then phase 3, if we're lucky, September. because I do expect that there are going to be spikes, that things are going to change. And, I hope people are thinking ahead is my want and sometimes is my curse. I mentioned before a lot of things that are probably not going to be happening this spring and summer in not just Howard County, but the state of Maryland, the country, and the world.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of talk about sports leagues. And, I could see an NFL season. I can see an NFL season with absolutely zero fans in the stands,
Mhm.
or maybe 500 fans who can test at the gate that they are coronavirus free and don't have a fever, and who won a special lottery.
Well, that makes it a fun experience.
Yeah, well, yeah, but some people would want to go out and watch a game.
Yeah, true.
The Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. How's that going to happen?
Mm-hmm.
New Year's Eve in Times Square. Ain't happening. Ain't happening. I mean, a ball is going to drop in Times Square, and no one will be there to see it except the naked.
Everyone's spread apart 6 feet away, politely clapping, and then they'll leave.
Right. The naked cowboy will be there. Cops will be there. No one else will be there. Unheard of in our world.
Yeah.
And these things are going to go on. So I agree with you. I do believe it's time to start planning. I mean, because of what we said at the outset. And then plus, yes, even though the best laboratory theoretical science would say, sure, best if everybody stays socially distanced and locked down until August. In reality, there are some things that have to move forward. I think it's going to be a little bit later. I think the progress is going to be a little bit slower than people realize, but I ultimately think it's going to be better. The other thing, and this goes into the God is my witness department, can someone please have our president not say anything? Just not say anything. I know I've been saying this for over 3 years. Trump, stay off of Twitter, stay out of the briefings. Just, you know what? If you can't say anything nice, don't say a damn thing. Trump and Pretlow, who knew? Brothers from different mothers. Also, I don't watch the national briefing anymore. If I happen to have the TV on and it comes on, I'll watch some of it. And oh my God, even with our Barney Rubble looking vice president on there, Mike Pence, kicking it off, it went so much better than it ever does with the president.
Well, unfortunately, very true. And just the whole, I saw the series of Liberate tweets at a time when state capitals, including Maryland's own state capital this weekend, will be bombarded by idiots who choosing to go out and protest. And
this is the most ridiculous asinine protest ever.
Oh
so I at least give the fools in the Boone's homeland of Michigan some credit for at least standing outside, standing on the steps of their capital, bitching about Gretchen Whitmer and all that.
Mm-hmm.
But I believe at least one of the other protests were red-hatted yokels, standing around in clustered groups as well.
Mm-hmm.
But today's protest at Maryland at noon, in case anyone's interested, called Gridlock Maryland, is going to be by car only. So as to not violate the executive order, everybody's going to be in their cars in true Gary Newman fashion. To live in their cars. And this is what is this? This doesn't even make sense. None of it makes sense. And I don't know. These are just people with nothing to do, no job, no trade, because anybody with any measure of self-respect would be like, no. What is the end? I mean, to your point before, what is the end? That's not going to change a thing.
You know, in some ways, it seems like a really bad South Park episode. Uh, there was one episode in particular I'm thinking about. I think it involved time travel and immigration. And so some of the current day residents of South Park figured out that, well, I'm not sure if I want to go into this necessarily, but it was like, well, but if we, the joke was if we all turn gay, there'll be no future. So we don't have to worry about our jobs being taken away by these future immigrants.
Oh Lord.
And so, and so a bunch of Colorado rednecks all basically had a big orgy to prevent the future from happening. It seems to be the same level of logic being used by the folks in Annapolis. So
Yeah. I cannot wait. I am so looking forward to my Sunday Sun tomorrow morning and reading the expert coverage. It's a shame that there's a reporter who's being taken away from writing a story about some courageous doctor or a great nurse or someone else who's performing, awesomely during this, to write 400 words about this crap.
It seems like a big waste of time.
Speaking of wastes of time.
All right.
Lots of global navel gazing now about what did we all know and when did we all know it? And lots of examination now about what did the Chinese know and when did they know it? The original story about how the coronavirus came to be was that a bat bit a game animal. The game animal was killed. It was taken to a market. It was bought. People ate the meat. They got coronavirus. And then they passed it on to another and another and another. Now, there are reports that possibly the virus was developed in a lab using bat DNA and that it somehow came out. Of course, also, and China is known to be, messing with its own and fine tuning its own biomedical weapons capabilities. There also have been reports that all of the prior thing is true, plus it was not an accidental release, that there was a method behind it. Last, there have been reports that possibly up to 6 million more people in China died than were released. And this is, again, and how tinfoil is this? I don't know. But again, reports of, counting number of cell phone signals reported 6 million, a total of 6 million fewer cell phone signals in the area around in and surrounding Wuhan. Jason, I just have a simple question.
Sure.
What the flip?
Excellent question. But as far as one would think that the Chinese wouldn't fuck this up. I mean, what?
I try not to say fuck, but since you just did it, I'll just say what the fuck.
It would be stunning if the numbers are that high, even given the population of China. I mean, just thinking about how safely how much they safeguard their state secrets and how much they invest into their defense capabilities, which includes the biomedical I was thinking I would just be shocked if this were in any sense of the term deliberate, just based on how the Chinese government priorities are and how the society operates. But then again, we saw early on that the disruptions to social order are not appreciated there. So as we learned from the doctor's experience who uncovered this very early on. So obviously their handling has been far from stellar, which will be the understatement of the year. I just think the investigation must continue as to the cause. I'm not sure we'll know, if we ever know, what the true scope and how this came to be about as it did. I'm sorry, I'm mumbling a little bit, but how this came to be about.
Yeah, I don't think we will ever know either. And I will bring it right back to, our president loves to take credit for the one thing he did right, which is to restrict rule from China, travel from China. At the time in our history that this guy should have built a wall, a figurative wall, cutting off foreign travel, he failed to do so. The other thing he failed to do was to send the Centers for Disease Control in there to work with the World Health Organization to assess exactly what the heck was going on in Wuhan province and to try to figure out how this all came to be. Very much like the AIDS crisis, which, Dr. Fauci, became famous for. It will, and that took a long, long time to identify who patient zero was of the AIDS crisis. Even that said, no one understands how patient zero contracted AIDS. We have absolutely no shot of knowing who the patient zero is, nor do I think we know who even the patient 100,000 is. And that is a damning indictment of the failure of this administration to act in a global way where we have global license and authority to do so. We have had it for decades. We had it with Ebola. We had it with swine flu. We've had it for a long, long time. And it was just puerile spite which is the reason why we didn't do that, because we give the World Health Organization so many hundreds of millions of dollars and China gives very little, and yet they support China and not us. That administration, this national administration fell asleep at the switch. And insofar as the Chinese, I frankly will give it a factor of 10. That things there, you put another zero on it, and that seems to be, to me, a more accurate number of cases and deaths. I think all this other stuff, very well explainable. Of course, cell phone signals were down in Wuhan because nobody was moving around. No one was using their phones. There's, many other reasons. But no, I don't think it is smart germ warfare or any other kind of warfare to test a new device out on your own citizens. So I definitely don't think there is any Syria acting, Assad action going on there.
Had it been in a different region other than Wuhan, I don't know.
That's true.
Yeah.
But I do think that this was bumbled, and who could have been the Sherlock Holmes, and to try to figure out how this could have gotten back on track, we decided to walk away from that.
Very unfortunate, but typical for this administration, that decides to put more emphasis on a Reopen America committee that is just a ghoulish cast of characters. But
well,
Ivanka, Jared, Steve Mnuchin, Wilbur Ross. These are people you can trust.
It's the A-team. But of course, I forget which paper it was in where I read, what had, when the president, I think it was in the Times, when the president was first brought news of what was going on with coronavirus and with its spread, and that, more than just that there was this thing, but more, hey, this is a big deal. This could potentially affect us. He was more concerned about vaping and, making sure that people still had access to their tobacco flavors of vape. So good to know we have priorities. And our priority is to bring you, the viewer/listener, the finest quality podcast experience you can. And I believe we have done that today, Jason. So
it feels like we have.
Yes. So I believe it is time to to bid a fair adieu to you, the viewer listener. So Jason, any words of wisdom in closing? I'm sure with the business climate the way it is, there really haven't been any new sponsors.
Uh, no new sponsors. Although I did want to call out the fact that here we stand with the presumptive Democratic nominee, and of course I totally nailed it about Joe Biden going this far. Don't bother rewatching the old episodes or listening to them. It's fine, trust me. But in all seriousness, I will give a second shout out again to Columbia Community Care, the Facebook group where our recent guest, Erica Strauss-Chavaria, came on, and they're doing some fantastic mutual aid work in our community, and I just want to give a hat tip to them.
And I will echo that hat tip, and also to for your needs to donate to Columbia Community Care or any other relief organization during the coronavirus crisis, you need to look up ItemWise. That's ItemWise with a Z, one word. They have a Facebook page. They have a website. Their owner-operator CEO is someone very near and dear to myself, happens to be my son. And he has been doing pickups for Columbia Community Care, getting stuff from people's houses over to the drop-off sites so that then they can be distributed. He's been doing some of the distributions. He's been working very hard. I'm very proud of Will for this work. And thinking we should get him on the podcast in the not too distant future.
Great, yeah.
That would be a thing. So it is now time to bring us to a close. Plus, it looks like it's going to rain again. Only the 730th time this week.
Yeah.
So I'm Bill Woodcock.
And I'm Jason Booms.
And you have been watching or listening to Forward Maryland. Have a great day, everybody. Take care.